Hello, everybody. Welcome to Slogan's Rock and Metal Extravaganza. We're here today with another music hangout. We've got Mark Slaughter's very first band, a very young Mark Slaughter, who everybody knows from the band Slaughter. He was only 18 or 19 years old when this was recorded. He's playing guitar and doing the vocals. I was very shocked when I heard this because he's just like shredding on the entire thing. And you never really heard that when he was in Slaughter. I don't think he ever really just played more than acoustic guitar for the most part with Slaughter, but mostly just a singer with them. So it's interesting to hear him young and hungry and just shredding away. So yeah, we're gonna get right into it. And yeah, first song, Mouthful of Steel. And whoever uploaded this has like all this cool little graphic thing going with it. So I'm gonna get going, and yeah. Yeah. So what do you think so far?
Pretty good. Can't
Yeah.
can't complain.
Oh yeah, it's awesome stuff. Yeah, I've known the EP more than this. I don't think I've ever actually sat and listened to the whole LP, but yeah, I wasn't sure what to expect. I mean, the song's too fast. I was assuming it was going to be a fast one. Like I
Definitely
said,
has that '80s priest and
oh
knocking.
yeah. Imagine if that was a ballad. It's like, let's screw with people and make Too Fast our ballad.
If I
Oh,
had to guess, I don't know if there's going to be a ballad on here.
I'd think Ladies of the Night maybe.
Never again, maybe.
Riding High being a Moxie cover would be awesome, but no, it's not that. So, that would be so awesome though. His voice could do it. Like he's got a good voice on this. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Keep going to Over the Edge now. That's totally the Black Diamond outro.
Oh yeah, got slower.
Yeah. Yeah, so the last one by Xcursion was a single that came out 2 years after this in '86.
Their
And I
best song
guess
too, by the way.
the band was pretty much, it seems like they were pretty much done, and I guess it looks like he just used the name. That's what I'm assuming. Because the only one credited is Mark. He plays the drums, the bass, and the guitar, except he's not singing. Singing is a guy named George Luster, who in 1999 got arrested for kidnapping and first-degree murder and is serving a life sentence. So
Yeah, we're next week. We're actually going to interview him. So,
live from prison. It's interesting.
Kyle, I just want to talk about what Kyle picked up here. All right. So
Okay.
Whitesnake, Live in the Heart of the City,
Nice.
Angel Witch, Anthrax,
Wow.
King Diamond, Metallica, Merciful Fate, and then
These
the
all-
one that doesn't fit here. What one doesn't fit here, Sydney? What one doesn't fit in that catalog there?
Need a transcript, yeah.
The Electric Light Orchestra.
Yeah, that's a weird. I got all this metal. ELO.
I love it too, though, Kyle. Great
Does.
stuff, man.
The guy you bought it from is probably like, what the hell?
Why isn't there any Xcursion in there, Kyle? Come on.
That all CDs or records?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Kyle, tell us.
Yeah, the last one is the last song this band ever did was called Black Girls, White Girls. And it's exactly what you'd expect from a song like this. It's
their best song too, people.
It's funny. It's fun to listen to just to get a laugh. But yeah. Anyways, this is the last thing they ever did, like I said, with the convicted murderer singing and Mark playing everything else.
On Slogans next week, people, don't miss it.
Here we go. Yeah, so that was intro. Oh my god.
That's my gym. That's my gym playlist.
That was interesting. Oh my god.
Actually, I worked out to this song today, and man, oh, it gets me so pumped.
Girls were running at him.
Exactly. Black girls and white girls. I couldn't believe it.
Totally ridiculous song. I hope if Mark Slaughter ever sees this, he's embarrassed. I wouldn't even blame him if he requests it getting taken down, to be honest.
He's like, I'm okay with the rest of it. Just
like,
can you edit this part out?
It's like, come on, man. There's a reason this didn't get played. I don't know what they were thinking. I guess maybe I get it. I guess it was like, yeah, the white guy and the black guy together singing about white girls and black, trying to be like, I guess, yeah, I don't know, but
missed opportunity to not make a video out of this song.
Oh my god. Doesn't help that the guy got arrested for murder and kidnapping like 30 years later. Like, it's kind of like, ouch.
That's a crazy story, yeah.
Yeah, I wonder like how it'd be weird in Mark's case, like even hearing that. Like, he probably never saw the guy ever again after recording that. It's just like
might be part of the reason why he doesn't want to deal with this stuff, but I don't know. I mean,
yeah, I don't know.
Because that other stuff doesn't have anything to do with it, but you know.
No, yeah, it's very strange. Like, is that even really Xcursion? Like, I feel like
there was why would they release it under?
I feel like there was just pressure to use the name, I guess, and hope that they were gonna have a hit with that.
God, that had to be what it is.
Like, it has radio.
Nothing like anything else.
No, it has radio hit, I guess, like the tempo and the melody of it, but like.
Well, if you think about
it, George Luster is gonna come after us. The singer.
Well, he's here actually. We're gonna do the interview tonight, not next week.
Interview him. How's life in prison, George? Oh my god.
Too funny.
Jesus, that's crazy.
But, yeah, it's a good band though. I mean, you know.
What was it I was looking at?
A lot of early '80s metal influences, and you know.
Oh yeah. Let's see. There's some information on this guy that was in prison. What's crazy? So yeah, the fact that he was charged with kidnapping, first-degree murder. Guess what his first band was called before he joined Xcursion? Before he did this Xcursion, I guess he had a band before that. There's no information. Heard Him Bad and the SC Band. Heard Him Bad.
Heard Him Bad.
Oh boy, that's it's weird that there's.
And it's pretty bad. There's more info about this guy than there is about this band.
It's weird that there's a picture of him on like this metal website, and it's his prison photo. Like, and he's like inside. Looks like he's in a solitary confinement cell.
Well,
like,
they had to use something.
Like, what the hell? Like, the fact that even got uploaded on here. I'm curious who did. Maybe he uploaded this himself. I don't know. He wants to feel important and put his face on the thing. I don't know. Very strange, but yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna end this one,
Screw
and we're gonna yeah. That's just unfortunate, but yeah. Yeah, listen to it for Mark's guitar, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. This is a good solo.
Sing along to it. Don't sing along to it.
Don't sing along to it. Yeah. It's weird. It's weird knowing that, right? It's kind of a strange thing, but yeah. So we're going to end this one, and we're going to play one more album by a band called Dead End from New Hampshire. So we're going to head on over to New Hampshire, and that's going to be the next one. So we'll be back for just a minute.
See you guys.
See ya.